Good afternoon, Team ICT. Good afternoon. This is like my 100th attempt at getting this video to you. I hope that this one here will make it through. I've been trying from morning to create some videos that I can share with you to guide you through the different applications that we will be focusing on for the assignment. Now, so my face was looking much better before, but right now I'm frustrated. So please, yes, I trust and hope that you're all keeping safe in the crisis. All right. So let me just bring your memory back, bring back to memory what is required in the Microsoft Excel section of the assignment. Okay. And I'm hoping that I'm gonna do this snappy so that I can at least have a video out. All right. So we're required to create a grade book with at least 20 students in that class. Include at least 3 relevant personal data, excluding students' names. So this means that you are going to have 4 or more personal data on each student. So the 4 or more personal data must include the name. All right, so include at least 3, meaning that you can have more than 3. All right, in addition to the student's name. So don't just put down student name and 2 other things and say that is it. The least you can have is 4. So that would be the 3 additional pieces plus the student's name. All right, so we have student's name, ID number. That's for me. You can have your own. So one must have for me is ID number. And another one is parents' name and contact. You can have date of birth, address, class, etc. You can have others, but just for demo's sake, I'm gonna demonstrate with those that I mentioned. All right. The next thing to do is to include at least 5 subject grades for each student. Any subjects, it doesn't matter. Include functions for total, maximum, minimum, and average for each student. And create a bar chart or a bar graph showing the highest and the lowest scores for each student. Ensure that the graph is labeled properly. And you save your work according to the prescribed format in the assignment. All right, so without further ado, I now take you to Microsoft Excel. All right, for demonstration, I will only be using 3 students. So you will populate yours to ensure that you have 20 students. So I entered my student's ID number, first name, last name, parents' name, contact, 5 grades for me, mathematics, English, social studies, science, HFLE. All right, so I have completed the 3 relevant personal data, 5 subject grades, and please note for the students ID, what I did, I used a critical format. So I used the first and the last names initials followed by 2 digits, and I'm encouraging you to combine letters and numbers for your ID number to avoid problems when we move on now to creating the graph. All right. So moving on to the functions part now. So we are to include 1, 2, 3, 4 functions: total, maximum, minimum, and average. And it must reflect for each student. So I am going to use columns. So we know columns are labeled with letters. All right. And rows are labeled with numbers. So rows run across, columns are vertical. All right. So now I put in my function names. So I put total up here. So I want the total for each student. I want the highest grade, which will be called maximum. Lowest grade, minimum. and the average grade. All right, so for total, before I go any further, I just want to tell you, in Microsoft Excel, there are many built-in functions that can perform automatic calculation. All right, I am trusting and hoping that you'll watch the videos that are shared in the WhatsApp group and that you'll get a better understanding of what formulas and functions are. I will do another demo and share videos, other videos and stuff with you. But for the sake of the assignment, I just want everybody to be on the same page. So I'm just gonna be fast tracking to functions. So functions are predefined, built-in formulas in Microsoft Excel. Simply put, they are formulas to solve problems that are built in the system. So you don't have to try to find a formula or a method to solve the problem because these are already built in. So all you need to do is to put in your data and apply the right function. That's what functions are. All right, so where do I find these built-in formulas called functions? I simply go to f of x. If you look up here, there is a formula bar right here that allows us to enter data. So where do I want to put the function? I ensure that that is the cell that I'm in. So if you notice, this is what you call the active cell, the cell that is highlighted. So that is where I want the data to be entered in. So I click on it and I go to the f of x and I search for my function. So in this particular instance, I'm looking for a function that can give me total. So I look among the recently used functions and I see sum. Sum and total is the same. So sum function allows me to calculate the total of a series of numbers. So I click on sum and I click OK. All right, and then it's asking me now from where to where. So this is where I would put the series of numbers that I want to find the total of. So I have to look now in the spreadsheet and say, all right, I want it to move from cell F2, which is right here, all the way over to cell J2. All right, so I put F2 colon and I put the last place in the series, J2. All right, and if you notice, it automatically shows the data that it is picking up to find the total of. So that's 90, 85, 12, 45, 100. When I'm done, I click enter. And you can double check with your calculator to see if the function is returning the correct value. All right, so this 90, so I'm gonna just double check. 90 plus 85 plus 12 plus 45 plus 100. And yes, it is showing me 332. Brilliant. So 332 is correct. So I have 20 students. So even though you're seeing 3 here, I have 20 because you must end up with 20. So I have 20 students and I want to, I know that some persons would say, all right, go ahead and enter the function for each student individually. But that can be time consuming. So I'm going to be using a particular tool called the autofill. All right. So autofill allows me to copy a function to adjoining cells. All right. And when I copy this function, I am able to, it will automatically change to reflect the cells, the new cells that are in that row. All right. So now in order for me to copy the function or a formula, in order for me to copy this down in this column, I will move the cursor to the bottom right hand corner and you'll notice that the plus changes from this fat white plus to a skinny plus. And that's what I call it, a skinny plus. That's called the fill handle. So I copy it down and automatically all the data. So this one now is saying from F3, from F3 right over to J3. You must find the total of. Good. So you have equal sum F of F3 colon means 2 and J3. So we're using the cell addresses to refer to the cells. And then this one here is saying find the sum from F4 all the way over to J4. And so these are reflecting the correct figure. So if you had 20 students, you would continue to copy down using the fill handle to the last student in your list. Maximum. So maximum means highest, greatest. All right, and there is a function in Excel that can find the greatest value of a series of numbers. So here, I simply go back to, I ensure that the cell that I want the greatest or the highest grade in, I put the cursor, click the cursor there to make it the active cell. Remember again, the active cell is the cell that is highlighted. And I move over to f of x, and I look for anything that looks like maximum, and I see max. I go ahead, I click max, and I click OK. All right, it's now asking me for the series. From where to where do I want to find the maximum? And it is saying, is it from F2, F2 to K2? No, it cannot be to K2 because K2 has not any subject grade, but the actual total that we just calculated. So I have to say from F2 all the way to J2. So I remove the K and I put J. All right, and now it is showing me I'm going to be adding 90 plus 85 plus 12 plus 45 plus 100. It should return the highest value that this student got, which should be 100. And so I can click OK. And if it doesn't give me 100, then I know that there is a problem with the function. I click OK, I get 100. All right, and then I would use the autofill feature again to copy the function down. So I'm gonna go to the use the fill handle, and I'm gonna just copy down. So for this student, the second student, Mark Daly, his highest would have been 99. So I look through and check, yes, and then Alia Keeble would have gotten 100% as her highest, and that is indeed so. Now we want a function to find out the minimum, the lowest grade that each student got. And so I am going to, sorry, I just got distracted. I was getting a call, but I cannot answer that call now. I'll have to return the call after. All right, it's a lecturer, so I need to return that call. All right, so to find the minimum, I simply go back, so ensure that the cell is the active cell, and then I click on f of x, look for my function for minimum. I see min looks like it. Now, if you don't see a function among the list of functions here, you can simply move up in the functions dialog box, click on the down arrow and select all functions. Then search through all the functions to see if you find that function there. So I'm going to look for min. HIGKLM. Good, I think I just see min. So I see min here. I double click on it. And then it asks me from where to where do I want to find the minimum. I could just manually type it in because we already know the series. So I'm moving from F2 to K, no, from F2 to J2. F2 colon means 2, J2, and I click enter. And the lowest grade for the first student in the class, which is Kayan. Kayan's lowest grade is 12. And so, yes, that is reflecting correct data. I can now copy this to the other cells. And the lowest for the second person is 50. Yes, that is indeed so. The lowest for the third is 89. Very much so. So we are on our way with our functions. There's another function now called average. And now we're going to work out the average grade for each student. All right. So to use the average function, again, we click on the cell that we want to do the calculation in. And I go to f of x, the functions tab, and I look for average. Let me see if it's among the recently used. Most recently used. Good, and I say average. All right, I click OK. I click OK, sorry about that. And then I put in the series, the range of cells for which I want to do the average. So here I'm going to type in now from F2. So I'm always starting with my first row, my first record, my first student. F2 to J2. And that is showing me again the same numbers. So I'm looking now for the average of those. And I click enter. I click on my down arrow and I copy it's not the down arrow, sorry people, my autofill, and I copy the function down. And now I have all my functions included. Now, another thing that is asked of us is for us to create a bar graph. A bar graph. Now, in order for us to do this graph, what I said to the group last week in class, I will just move this over to the other side. What I said to the group last week in class was that we are going to do a little bit of copying and pasting on another sheet. So right now, very important, save as you go. You see the format that is there, it tells you to put your first initial. So I'm going to click save as, and I'm saving it in the format. So I have now K Brown underscore Excel. I'm going to save it to the desktop. You can save yours wherever you're comfortable. My documents, a particular folder, and I click. All right, save. All right, so I'm done with the saving part, you know. So I save a lot, save as I go along because I don't want to lose the work that I'm doing. All right, so that's that there. Now, this, as I said, the next requirement for this assignment is to create a chart. So I first want to copy the data that I need for the chart, because in doing a charting spreadsheet, you have to establish what you call a data set. That's the set of data that you'll use to create the chart from. So I want my student's ID number. So I copy and I go to sheet 2 and I paste. And I also want, because the graph should have highest and lowest, so I go back to sheet 1 and I look for the highest and the lowest, which is maximum and minimum. I highlight them, copy, and I go to sheet 2 and I paste. But in this pasting, I am not going to do the regular paste, because if I do the regular paste, it's going to cause problems, because the maximum and minimum are functions that are referring to data on sheet 1. And the data is referring to on sheet 1 is not on sheet 2. So I am going to paste special. Just paste the values. You realize if I do the regular paste, it is going to give me REF. Means that is the problem with the reference. It can't find the data that it's looking for. So I am not going to deal with that now. I'm going to go and paste it as just raw data, values only. So just the values I'm going to be pasting, and I'm good to go with this. So now I have my student ID, the maximum, the minimum. So I have enough data to create my chart. All right. So I can easily, in order to create a chart, first, as I said, have your data set or your data series. This is my data set for my chart. This is my data that I'm using for my chart. So I have all my students' names, and beside their names, their maximum and their minimum. All right. I could call maximum highest, and I could call minimum lowest. All right. Because I need to see the highest and the lowest grade. So I could say highest grade, and I could say lowest grade. All right. And now I have my data. I can simply, in order to create the chart, I have my data series. I first highlight the data that I need to create the chart. And I go to insert. Some persons systems will have it a little different. Some persons will have it in other places, but I'm just showing you where I go on my system. All right, so I go to insert and I look for the chart type. The chart type that is asked of us is bar. So I'm looking for a bar chart format that I like. I like this one. As long as you use the format bar chart. So don't give us any other type of chart. Bar chart. All right, so I click on bar, and this is my bar chart. Red showing the lowest grade, blue showing the highest grade. The ID numbers are here. All right, so this is my chart. I can now move my chart to a separate sheet. So I have move chart. All right, new sheet. Okay, I can work with my chart from there, and I'm recommending that all charts be moved to a new sheet. Good. All right. So here is where I have my chart. And remember that the chart must be properly labeled. So in order for you to fix up your chart, as I said before, different persons will have different layouts and different presentations based on the kind of systems that they're using, the version of the platform that they're on. All right. So I can simply go to layout to fix up the labeling of my chart. So I want to give my chart a title. I click on layout under chart tools. So there are three chart tools that come up by default when you select chart: design, layout, and format. So in order for me to add labels to my chart, I go to layout. I add my chart title. It will give you the option. The drop down menu will give you options. So here, do I want above the chart? I'm going to put mine above the chart. All right. So my chart title is going to be highest and lowest grade. So probably I have your chart showing highest and lowest grade. For now, you can add more to it. Probably want to put the class name or group name or so. But my title, chart showing highest and lowest grades for students. Okay, good. And I want to add my axes title. So two things that you're working with right now, people. You're looking at your chart title and your axes title. That's basically it. All right. So for the primary horizontal axis, horizontal running at the bottom. So we know that at the bottom there we are seeing grades. So I can now say title below the axis, and I can say grades. Need to click in the box that comes up. students' grades. All right. And that is for the horizontal axis. For the vertical axis now, I am going to choose the one that says display axis title with vertical text and resize, display axis title horizontally and resize. So I'm gonna choose this one. Good. Just ensure you have. So these are the names of the students and this and their grades. Sorry, it's not students' name, students' ID number. Why I use ID instead of students' names here is because ID number is more unique. Names, you can have several students with the same names in a class or in a school, and so you use the ID number to to differentiate. Because if two students have the same names, how do you know which student should get a particular grade? So I use ID numbers, and that is why I encouraged you in the beginning to use ID numbers. If your ID number only has numbers, by now you'd be tearing out your hair because it would be a problem for it would pose a problem to have all the data in the series being numeric. And that is why I told you from the beginning, ensure the ID number is a combination of letters and numbers. All right, so that is it for the chart. So we've looked at everything. Created our spreadsheet with the personal data. All you have to do is to populate it with more students than what I did. I did 3 students. You will go on to 20. Add your 5 subjects. Use your functions. Create your bar graph and put it on a separate page, a separate sheet, and then ensure that you save it using the prescribed format. So this is it. I trust and hope that you have learned something, and I hope I get all 100. All right.